Coming up, we'll talk to the chairman of the Restoration Committee and the director of grounds here at the Wissahickon Course.
About 5 or 6 years ago, we made a concerted effort to look at what would it take to bring back AW Tillinghast's original design for the Philadelphia Cricket Club.
And you started from scratch, basically, and 6 months later, it almost looks playable.
I saw a special a while ago, and it was on how they manage Air Force One, protecting the president. They call it a zero-fail mission. And after thinking about how we've done this project...
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue, and today we're at the Philadelphia Cricket Club, specifically at the Wissahickon course here in Flourtown, Pennsylvania, which opened for golf in 1922. It was designed by the famed architect AW Tillinghast, one of several he designed that golfers are enjoying to this day. Back in June of 2013, the Wissahickon course was closed for a restoration project. Not just one hole or one green, but the entire golf course. And coming up, we'll talk to the chairman of the Restoration Committee and the director of grounds here at the Wissahickon course to see how the project has been evolving and get an idea of what the members have waiting for them when the course reopens in May of 2014. It's coming up next on Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank and Wealth Management. Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank. Susquehanna Bank, doing what counts. By Club Champion, better fit, lower scores. Visit their Ballackinwood location. And by the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf.
Free enterprise is the engine that drives our economy. Everyday businesses, big and small, work to make life better for their customers and a better life for themselves. Susquehanna knows successful businesses need a strong financial partner, someone who can help keep your business running at peak efficiency. The people of Susquehanna Bank, doing what counts for businesses like yours. Member FDIC.
At this moment, across the country, families are packing their bags for a getaway. And no matter where they end up, they'll all be home by dinner. Plan your own at playgolfamerica.com. From finding fun and affordable programs to finding advice from PGA and LPGA professionals, playgolfamerica.com has a way for you to get away. Visit today for details. playgolfamerica.com, your link to the game.
Welcome back to Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank and Wealth Management. We are with Greg Geyer, who is the chairman of the Restoration Committee here at the Wissahickon course of the Philadelphia Cricket Club. First of all, thanks for taking time, Greg.
Thanks, Harry. Appreciate it.
Now, Greg, I don't know about you, but when I heard you guys were going to restore the Wissahickon course, I've been coming here for years, not as a member, but as a guest. And I have to say it's one of the top 5 golf courses in the area, if not beyond. And I'm thinking, restored to what? This is a great golf course. What's it all about, these changes? Tell us.
Well, it's really interesting. I mean, the course was originally built in 1922 and opened, and fundamentally the greens had not changed since 1922. And so the technology and trying to keep them in perfect shape for the best amateurs and professionals was getting tougher and tougher. The bunkers were starting to erode and getting tougher to keep up because they needed to be rebuilt. So about 5 or 6 years ago, we made a concerted effort to look at what would it take to bring back Tilly's AW Tillinghast's original design for the Philadelphia Cricket Club. So that started back then, and what it's been turned into today is a golf course which is very similar to the golf course visually that you saw back then, but now has been upgraded, everything from fairways, bunkers, greens, a lot of different tees, different features. So exciting time.
What helped you get back to Tillinghast's original design? Photographs? You had some photographs of that?
2 things. First of all, we have some photographs, aerials of the 1930 picture of the golf course, as well as we had brought on board a historian, Phil Young, who is an expert in Tilly's designs and helped be a consultant to our architect, Keith Foster, who did the golf course. So we made sure that we did things consistent with the way Tilly would have redone the golf course, and basically just moved features which he had to a playing area that today's technology now makes very playable. A lot of the features that were here were things that the best players, they didn't even come into play. They just would hit the ball over them and not even think about them. What we did is we brought every player all the way from top amateur all the way to a beginner player where it can be very playable and those features can be navigated around successfully.
You know, you've made, I'm sure, in some cases, some dramatic changes, and people would notice them right away, and other ones more subtle. But right here, we're standing on what used to be the fourth hole, par 5, not a particularly long hole. And now as I look at it, up here some, 200 yards out from the green, where did this come from? Huh? What did he call this, Tilly? This is a great hazard?
Yeah, it's called a great hazard. It was a feature which Tilly originally had here. We have a great picture in the 1930 aerials, almost exactly with what you see behind me. There were 13 bunkers that were placed, and it was basically just an area. I mean, today we think about if there was a lake there, you wouldn't think about it. But what Tilly did is he took that kind of concept and he built bunkers and rough, and so it was a place you just wanted to hit over. So we basically tried to bring it back exactly the way he had it back in 1922.
So there's about, almost a dozen bunkers?
There are.
In this little big great hazard. And Tillinghast had something to do with Hell's Half Acre at Pine Valley, and anybody that's played there knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the 7th hole, which has a feature called Hell's Half Acre, it is attributed to Tilly's input to Crump back in those days. Which I found very exciting, that this kind of Philadelphia School of Architecture would share ideas, and there were a lot of great ones. And in Pine Valley, Tilly got attributed to a couple of holes. Whether he had final decision rights, we don't know, but on the 7th hole and then the 15th hole there, which has more of a kind of a Redan feature, both of those Tilly had in several of his golf courses.
Well, Greg, we're here now on the back 9. This is number 14, and I remember this because I've eagled this hole in the past. And everything looks the same except when you get down to the green, and all of a sudden, some dramatic changes with the number of bunkers you have there. Tell us about this.
Again, another great example of the restoration back to the way Tillinghast designed the course. In the 1930 aerial, we have about 7, 8 different bunkers that are little small bunkers in short of the green. Over time, that became one big bunker. And so basically what you see now is the restoration back to many smaller bunkers short of the green.
Something else I noticed, there's no fringe around these greens. There's no first cut around the fairways. That's the way it's going to be?
The original pictures had it where the green went directly to the rough, and there's no apron in the greens anymore.
Will there be a gradual cut maybe of rough? Or I know they did that at Marion, but you're going right from green or fairway to primary rough.
Right now it's going to be the same level of rough, which is not going to be terribly deep. We don't plan to have the deep be hugely deep, so it shouldn't be a big deal, but it definitely will be a change for people when they play.
Let's take a look at the next hole. It's a darling par 3, not little, but man, what a dramatic change they've made, especially on the right side. All right, now we've moved over to hole number 15, Greg. Now this, as people who have played here at the Cricket Club remember, is a par 3, but when you look at it now, it is totally different. What happened to the hedge that used to run for about 75 or 100 yards down the right side? You got this huge hill. That was never there before.
Well, it was always there, you just couldn't see it. It had so much shrubs and a lot of other things, tires and stuff that over years had been put there. So we opened that up to the right, and now it really does give a greater sense of the hole itself. Still a significant drop off to the left, but the green seems now to really sit up on a fortress, which was really the whole idea of the hole.
Now you have added this tee that we're standing on, and this is approximately, what, 250 to the middle of that green?
It's 250. This is only the championship tee. Not many people are going to be playing from here.
Won't have to worry about that, most of us.
But it's a great tee. It's a beautiful view. As you can see, it's a very difficult. You got to fly the bunker on the left side. So that tip over there is probably about 255 to the back left. So it's not for the faint of heart to go after it, I would say.
What is your plan to have this thing all completed, and when are the members finally going to be able to get out here and play it?
Well, our plan is Memorial Day weekend of next year. We're going to have a grand opening. We're going to have an event for all the members who have been patiently waiting.
Some of them, I understand, want to get out of here now.
They
right?
do. They're like, it's playable now. Why aren't we playing?
It's very playable.
And we would love to. The greens are in great shape. And by next spring, I think it's going to be phenomenal. So we'll have a big event, and it'll be great. It'll be a big celebration of Tillinghast. We'll try to have some of some of the ancestors that are still alive there, to kind of talk about the tribute to him and bringing this course back to life after all these years, 91 years ago. So,
final question. All things considered, was it worth it, the time that you spent as chairman of this restoration committee, to see this thing finally come alive?
Well, it's really interesting, and my wife calls it my mistress, because what happened at the beginning is I kind of liked working on the program, but she kept finding me slip out for a couple of hours to go look at the course and to meet with Dan Mearsman, the head of grounds here, to kind of get a sense of what do we need to do. And any open hours I would have, I would be out here. It's a phenomenal experience to learn. I was the kind of person that knew how to drive a car very well, but I had no idea how a car works. Now I know how to build a golf course, because what goes into it is so much more advanced. Even though I've played golf since I was 5 years old, I had no appreciation for how much work goes into making a world-class golf course. And this is going to be a tremendous tribute to Tillinghast, but also a tribute to all our members who have patiently been waiting.
Well, look at it this way. It'll be the last one you do, right?
It is definitely going to be the last one we do.
You mentioned Dan Mearsman. We'll be back to talk to Dan, who is Director of Grounds here at the Cricket Club, get his perspective on the construction, the timetable, and how everything is progressing. Greg?
Harry, thank you.
Really enjoyed it.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming out.
More from the Philadelphia Cricket Club and the restoration of the Wissahickon course next on Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank and Wealth Management.
In 1916, a small group of dedicated golfers decided to turn their passion into a business. And the PGA of America was born. Our plan was to teach golf and to run golf courses. But along the way, we learned we taught something much more valuable than a game. And we built something far more enduring than clubhouses or fairways. So now, after almost 100 years, we've come to realize that what we thought would be a success story has always been, and always will be, a love story. From the 28,000 dedicated professionals at the PGA of America to the 27 million men, women, and children who share the passion that is our business. Thank you.
Valley Forge Casino Resort, we're rolling out the action. And we'll bring it all to the table. Valley Forge Casino Resort. It's safe, it's chic, and only a shuffle away from the main line.
Welcome back to Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank and Wealth Management. We are talking about the restoration program at the Wissahickon course at the Philadelphia Cricket Club. We heard from Greg Geyer, who's the chairman of the Restoration Committee, and here's the man that's really got his hands on day to day. This is Dan Mearsman, who's Director of Grounds, or I guess a more familiar term would be like superintendent of the 3 golf courses at Philadelphia Cricket, 2 up here in Flowertown, and St. Martin's down in the Chestnut Hill section of Philadelphia. Dan, first of all, you've been here for 5 years.
Yep.
And when you were hired 5 years ago, you knew what was coming down the road with this project.
Yes.
What were your thoughts then?
Well, I think first of all, you feel lucky to do it. You know, it's not often you get to restore Tillinghast home golf course and be a part of this. So I think you really feel the weight of the responsibility of how much people have loved the golf course and making sure that it's done as high quality as possible.
Now, there is an architect who specializes in restoration of Tillinghast courses around the country. His name is
Keith Foster.
Keith Foster. Tell us what kind of day to day, I guess you have contact almost with Keith, keeping him up to date. And does he come out here and check the progress himself?
Yeah, so Keith's an expert on golf course restorations. The true beauty of Keith Foster is that he's on site 2 days a week. So he only takes a couple of jobs a year at most. And when you're working with Keith, you get him the whole summer. And 2 days a week, it's very high accountability on all fronts. And that could be from the way something is shaped and looking to getting approvals fast, which allow us to grass fast. So, you know, having that close to tabs on the project, you can stay on budget, your timeline hits, and you know, he just knows what he's doing with restoring Tillinghast work. So he did Baltimore Country Club, and club has a lot of faith in him, as they should. He's phenomenal at what he does.
You know, an amazing part of this restoration project has been the speed of it all. It all began right after the U.S. Open in June of 13 at Marion, and 6 months later, you look around here and say, this is impossible. You took everything down to the dirt, right? Everything was removed except the trees, and you started from scratch, basically, and 6 months later, it almost looks playable.
Yeah, you know, it's, I saw a special a while ago, and it was on how they manage Air Force One and protecting the president. They call it a zero fail mission. And after thinking about how we've done this project, that's really how we've treated it. We've sodded greens, tees, greens, tees, approaches, and now we're coming in at budget and under budget, so we're going to go ahead and finish sodding all the rough. But what that allowed us to do is we have instant playability. So on a course construction standpoint, it allowed us to manage the project tight. You know, with the township, we were able to wrap things up tight, and you also get fairly instant playability out of that as well. From a course opening standpoint, we were able to stay open the first portion of this year to give our members half of a year of golf this year to get all their tournaments in, and then we'll be able to open in the spring of next year versus the summer of next year. So our members are gaining 6 additional months of golf by sodding the greens and by going that route.
What has been the most challenging part of it, at least from your perspective?
I think the fact that, you know, we have 2 other golf courses, so, you know, the clubs in the area have been really generous as reciprocal policy, but a lot of our members have also stayed home. So where at a normal 18-hole course, they'd close their 18-hole course, they'd do the project. You know, we have a lot of members at Militia Hill playing today, and a lot of members at St. Martin's that all still expect great conditions when they're playing there as well.
And as you look forward to the maintenance of this golf course, I mean, we talked to Greg. There are areas that used to be fairway that now have some hazards, sand bunkers placed in there. So it's going to require maybe a little more fine tuning and manicuring as opposed to what the golf course was.
Yeah, you know, the good news is we all get to elevate our game, so the club has elevated the status of the golf course, and we fully anticipate to up our game as well on this, both in staffing and frequency of items.
Well, as I said to Greg, look at it this way, you probably won't have to go through this again, at least not here
no, I hope
at
not.
the Cricket Club.
I hope not. So, thanks
Dan,
a lot.
thanks very much for having us.
Thanks.
Dan Mearsman, Director of Grounds here at the Philadelphia Cricket Club, and we'll be back. Inside Golf continues in a moment.
They were good players and they were friends. And I heard a speech earlier this year about what was their philosophy, what were they really striving to do when they did it.
Defining a target, realizing a dream. Susquehanna Bank can help you get your plans off the ground. Whether you're sending kids to college or doing something special for yourself. Susquehanna's financial advisors are worth talking to. We can help you find the smartest way to borrow money and save money in the process. Susquehanna Bank, doing what counts for dreamers like you. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
When you step out, make sure you go all in. Because at Valley Forge Casino Resort, we're rolling out the action. And we'll bring it all to the table. So take us for a spin and go all in for the win. Valley Forge Casino Resort. It's safe, it's chic, and only a shuffle away from the main line.
Guests of Teed Off receive gift certificates to any of the 8 restaurants at Valley Forge Casino at King of Prussia.
These guys were good golfers. They were golfers. They knew golf. They didn't have any.
Welcome back. Inside Golf continues. We are at Pacific Prime Restaurant in the beautiful Valley Forge Casino Resort, and we're talking golf with our panel of local experts. Joe Logan. Joe is the author of MyPhillyGolf.com. Michael McDermott no stranger to Philadelphia golf. Michael twice has won the Philadelphia Amateur. This year, he's the reigning champion, also works at the Philadelphia Group. And Bob Shepard, author, golf pro, Renaissance man, right? Hey, I'm going to test your knowledge a little bit.
Oh boy, here we
What
go.
area of the country do you think has produced, if not the best, certainly among the best golf course architects for the United States?
Historically, it's got to be Philadelphia.
Yeah, and that's
luckily.
something a lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize.
That's
right,
right,
Shep?
exactly, yeah.
I mean, you can tick off such great names as Tillinghast, Flynn, Hugh Wilson. Flynn was actually Wilson's the first superintendent, I think, at Marion.
believe. George Crump.
And helped design. George Crump, Michael being a member at both Marion and Pine Valley, knows George Crump's name, if not George personally, because he's passed on. But, and then you have recent people like the Fazios, Joe. Of course, George Fazio started it, and his nephew Tom has certainly picked it up and run. And Gil Hands, who has one of the bigger projects in the world right now, right?
The Olympics course in
Yeah,
Rio.
down in
yes.
Rio.
Yes, that's a huge, for him to win that design contest was over Nicholas and Player and Norman and Tom Doak and the great names in the game did wonders for his career and for Philadelphia golf.
You know, Shep, a lot of these guys, though, were peers. When I tick off names like Flynn and Tillinghast, George Thomas is another guy who designed White Marsh Valley. Then he went out west to Riviera and LA Country Club.
Yep.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, this is like close to 100 years ago.
Right, yeah.
They were going around designing golf, and they didn't have the technology to do it like today's golf
not at
course
all.
people
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, these guys were good golfers. They were golfers. They knew golf. They didn't have any of these architectural firms that they didn't have they had mules pulling sleds and of whatever the nature gave them is what they worked with, and that's where courses like this Cobb's Creek and Marion and they're put together by nature. And there's a man's name there, but basically speaking, it's along the creek and it's up the hill and it's on top of the plateau, and they're already there. They're not something that's being built, and that's the greatness of early architecture as opposed to today. Today's architecture, to me, looks a little like Disney World. You know, they have the streams, you can turn the water off and on for the ladies' member guest, and it's a beautiful thing. Don't get me wrong, they're magnificent pieces of agriculture.
They
But
don't
the
do
old-
that on Cobb's Creek.
No,
right?
that one runs free. Yeah, that's a free runner.
You know, Michael is one of the leading amateurs in this area, and if not in the country. I'm sure you've played the likes of Wingfoot, maybe, Shinnecock.
Yes.
Tillinghast designs in one case. I think Flynn designed Wingfoot in Huntington Valley. You know, you played up there. Do you see similarities when you go around and say, "Boy, this hole reminds me of the Sixth at Huntington Valley," for instance?
I think you can see those similarities, sure. And the style of those designers, I think you know certain holes. I mean, I don't think they have a stamp on them like a Redan type hole or any of those designers. But I think that they do have their styles, and I think they all learn from each other. Like Bob said, these guys in Philly, they were good players and they were friends. And I heard a speech earlier this year about what was their philosophy, what were they really striving to do when they did this back 100 years ago. And it was that the Philadelphia courses at that time, they weren't pleased with them. They wanted to build courses that would make them better players. So it was in a little bit of a selfish interest, really, that they wanted to get better, to do better in the U.S. Amateur and some other things. And if you look at the playing record of some of those people, some of those guys that you mentioned were Philadelphia amateur contenders, and they were U.S. amateur contenders. And that's really an interesting part about them is they were amateur designers. Most of them, I read somewhere that they weren't even getting paid for the design in many cases.
Yeah, and Wilson was a member at Marion and died at a young age. I think he was, in his late 30s, early 40s. And Crump died at a young age, Joe. I mean, it's amazing to think their contributions that they made and how they've lasted, over such a long period of time. I mean, these are renowned golf courses.
Michael touched on something that I think is impossible to overstate, and that is that these guys were contemporaries, they were friends. A lot of the courses we know today were very, if not collaborative efforts, they were generous with each other and their knowledge and their expertise. Like, for example, Pine Valley, when George Crump was ill, all these guys jump in, they pitch in. There's a little bit of each one of them in these courses. And also remember, this is a time before golf course architecture was the career that it is today. I mean, today we have Tom Fazio designing blockbusters. Every course he does is kind of a
Internationally,
blockbuster course. One of the reasons Gil Hanse is so successful and in such demand today is he is a modern day minimalist. He has sort of gone in the other direction and has sort of returned to this notion of taking what the land gives you and working with that, as opposed to just having guys on a bulldozer pushing big giant loads of earth back and forth.
Right. Interesting stuff. Joe Logan, Michael McDermott, and Bob Shepard. That's teed off. Stay tuned. More with Inside Golf in just a moment. The Valley Forge Casino Resort is the region's only full amenity gaming resort, and it's only seconds from the Pennsylvania Turnpike at King of Prussia. It features 600 slots, 50 table games, plus 8 restaurants designed to meet all of your dining needs. So put the beautiful Valley Forge Casino Resort on your destination list.
When you step out, make sure you go all in. Because at Valley Forge Casino Resort, we're rolling out the action. And we'll bring it all to the table. So take us for a spin and go all in for the win. Valley Forge Casino Resort. It's safe, it's chic, and only a shuffle away from the main line.
At this moment, across the country, families are packing their bags for a getaway. And no matter where they end up, they'll all be home by dinner. Plan your own at playgolfamerica.com. From finding fun and affordable programs to finding advice from PGA and LPGA professionals, playgolfamerica.com has a way for you to get away. Visit today for details. playgolfamerica.com, your link to the game.
Honey, what are all these cash rewards?
Stellar Checking with Smart Rewards. We earn cash on check card purchases and when we transfer money from our Stellar Checking into our savings account.
Cool. How should we spend them?
Stellar. Stellar.
Stellar!
Probably groceries.
Stellar Checking from Susquehanna Bank. Earn cash rewards whether you're spending or saving. Member FDIC.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Inside Golf. We want to thank Greg Geyer and also Dan Mearsman and everybody here at the Philadelphia Cricket Club for letting us show you the restoration project at the Wissahickon course. And I know the members can't wait to get out and play it come May of 2014. And you know, something tells me that if AW Tillinghast was to return to the course that he designed, as he would stand here on this 18th fairway with the clubhouse behind him, he'd say, "Gentlemen, it's just like I left it." I'm Harry Donahue, and remember, no matter how bad it's going for you out there, don't pick up. See you next time on Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank and Wealth Management. Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank. Susquehanna Bank, doing what counts. By Club Champion, better fit, lower scores. Visit their Bala-Cynwyd location. And by the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf.